As of today, there are less than 24 hours until the release of Black Ops 4. It is so close right now, I can almost feel the box in my hands. Although, I'll have it digitally instead of physically though, so I guess I can almost smell the power of the internet downloading the data? Doesn't sound as good, but let's put that aside for now. It is now time to rank each and every one of the zombie modes in all the different games, and let's make sure to point this out. All of this is simply my opinion. If you think Exo Zombies or IW Zombies are the best zombie modes, aside from me heavily questioning your taste, there is no problem. So as I respect your opinion, I hope you respect mine. Just setting up a cover for when I place World War II at the number 2 or 3 spot. Flip open this as I make this. Without any further ado, let's get into this. Oh, and I'm not counting Extinction. It's a good mode, but it's not really zombies. You know, when I started to plan this ranking video, there were a few positions that were 100% clear to me from the start. Exo Zombies was one of those positions. The maps range from okay to awful. And most of the time, with the maps, my problem stems from things that, if removed, would probably make me actually like this mode. Across all the maps, it's the EMPs and the infection rounds. Although I will say, if the EMP zombies weren't there, the mode would be too easy. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. In infection, the problems are that the toxic zones and survivor rounds exist. In Carrier, it's the bomb rounds, and in Descent, it's the rounds where Oz pulls you into his little arena. I will be honest though, there are some positive things in this mode. It introduced the tree hit system, and implemented a mechanic where when you go down, you don't instantly lose your perks. Instead, the longer you stay down, the more perks you lose. It makes the mode a little less punishing, and World War II would later implement this feature. I also 100% believe that Exo Zombies has the best ending out of all zombie modes. Well, not really counting Black Ops 1, but while I don't like the sequel bait ending bit with Oz, it provides satisfying conclusions and outros to each of the playable characters, something no other mode has done for some reason. But aside from that, I can't really like this mode whatsoever. Thankfully, we can only go up from here, is what I truly wish I was saying, because we have to talk about IW now. So, funny story, I used to think IW was my second favorite zombies mode, but then I thought about it for a bit. I only really love Spaceland to death, and also kinda like Rave a little bit, and also really like the weaponry, like the Auger, which has a variant that allows dual-wield miniguns, which is just great fun no matter what game you're playing. But when it comes to the other maps and how the game feels, it really begins to flop. While I do really love Spaceland and like Rave, Shaolin was a more mediocre map. And Attack was... God, it was the first time I played something that actually felt like it absorbed any emotions I previously had and no longer had the capability to feel. I could not feel anger, I could not feel enjoyment, I could not feel... It's honestly the worst zombie maps I've ever played. And as for Beast, at the very least it makes me feel unending hate, an actual emotion, while also having some pretty kick-ass music, honestly. But to get into one of the main reasons IW fails, is that it doesn't feel all that great to play. One of the main reasons I love BO4 and World War II, spoilers, is that it has some great game feel. It's hard to describe, but everything just feels right. If you go from BO4 or World War II directly to IW, you will see exactly what I mean. Another little niggle is that rather than having the normal quick revive system in solo, you instead wind up in the Afterlife arcade, have to spawn back into the map and run over to a lost and found to pick up your weapons. It breaks the flow of zombies completely. And it doesn't help that the plot is absolute wank as well. Rather than sticking to its guns and just being a cheesy, goofy story, it decides about midway through to become deeper. And God, does it not work. It doesn't help that the mode ends with 3 endings, with 1 true ending, with each ending having a more insulting cliffhanger than the last. I'll be honest, the only reason I place IW above EXO is because of Spaceland. I really enjoy that map, But if it wasn't there, I can see myself putting IW zombies below EXO. But that's enough on IW. Let's move on to the next mode. And now it's time for the first Treg Zombies mode on the list. Must be surprising to see I like World War II zombies more than one of the Treg modes. Yeah, one of them. Anyways, if you couldn't tell from the Jimmy Zielinski Tragedy Trilogy trademark, I'm bringing it back. I am not the biggest fan of BO2 zombies. I'll be honest, with Origins being on BO3, the only real reason I have to go back to play BO2 is for mob. One single map. Transit is a shithole with potential, admittedly. Die Rise was just a complete shit show with no potential. Nuketown is the one decent map before Mob that isn't really my cup of tea. And Buried is a snooze fest. So that leaves us with only 2 zombie maps that are actually good. But you know, it's funny. While BO2 absolutely has the actual worst of zombies, it also might have the very best, depending on if you think that way. Even though I said I don't play the BO2 version of Origins all that much anymore, that still doesn't change the fact that Origins is a fucking trip with an Easter egg that, while I will never do because getting staffs is enough of a fucking nightmare, is an experience, and I don't think I need to say anything about Mob of the Dead. But with me only liking 2 out of 6 maps in the game, I can't say BO2 is any better than this 4th spot in the ranking. Plus, I'll be honest, BO2 was the mode that made me really start to dislike the 2-hit system. I dunno, I didn't have this problem with BO1 or even World at War, but I think there might be something with the zombies where they hit the fastest they ever have in any mode. Might be just unlucky deaths, but I wouldn't put it past BO2. But that's enough about BO2 for now. On to the next mode. World at War, without a doubt, deserves an immense amount of respect for truly starting this zombie mode we all know and maybe have a hard time loving with all the bullshit COD can and will have. But that doesn't instantly let it be immune to any form of criticism. Thankfully, its zombie mode is actually good. It has a really solid set of maps. While I don't like Knocked all that much, people can enjoy it as a hardcore challenge map. And as for the other maps, I enjoy each and every one of them. Verrückt is a hard map, but it feels more enjoyable with the perk safety nets. She is also a fun map, and my favorite World at War map, and Reese is where all the zombie mechanic pieces fit together. But there is one teensy tiny problem with World at War. As while the maps themselves are all good, the actual gameplay itself is not good. Not as in the weapons are shit, far from it, the PPSH is a legendary weapon for a reason. What I mean is that the core gameplay feels flawed. Melee is janky as hell. The problem comes with the lunging, where your knife magnetically attaches to your enemy and sticks there for a very risky amount of time. Later games would either not have lunging, or if it did, make it work much better. All the explosive weapons will kill you if you are even within a single fraction of the blast radius, making using weapons like the rocket launcher and the ray gun actually suicidal, and I suppose another complaint is that Quick Revive does absolutely nothing in solo. Kind of an oversight. Now I will admit, this final problem isn't even World at War's fault, but I can play all the maps in World at War in BO1 and BO3, both with better melee systems, zombie collision, explosive weapons that don't kill you because 1 pixel of your body was in the blast radius, and a working solo quick revive. I'm not going to say there is no point to go back to World at War Zombies, but better versions of all the maps being in later, better playing modes is a huge blow to World at War. Of course, the saving grace of World at War is custom zombies, and I will fully admit that this would probably be my second favorite mode if I counted it as a point, but I feel it might be a touch unfair to count it when the only other zombie mode that has it is BO3, and infinite zombie maps is clearly better than 5 or 6 or 14 zombie maps. But when all is said and done, World at War on its own is a fairly solid zombies mode. But with BO1 and BO3 having all the maps, there really isn't much reason to go back to it. At the very least, all the zombie maps being at least solid in comparison to only 2 great maps in BO2, makes me like this mode a touch better than the previous one. Now, I'll be honest with these next 2 spots, they flip-flop constantly. Sometimes I think one mode is better, and then a little later I might think the other mode is better. But right now, at this very moment, I think that BO1 is my 3rd favorite zombie mode. BO1 is where I truly became a Zombies fan, thanks to countless hours put into Kino and 5. And I'll just get the obvious thing out of the way. While I complain about how World at War was kind of made redundant thanks to the maps showing up in BO1 and BO3, I feel that it isn't much of a problem with BO1. While Zombie Chronicles brought most maps to BO3, it didn't bring Call of the Dead and 5. And while I don't care much for Call, 5 is probably my second favorite Jimmy Zielinski map. Plus, while all the other maps are in BO3, I feel there's less better versions of the maps and more alternative versions. I personally prefer the BO1 arsenal of weapons to BO3 weapons, more aesthetically rather than actual use, and both games feel good to play in comparison to World at War. Now as for the maps, like I said in the videos, I love Kino and 5. Like Shang, enjoy Moon, although it is admittedly the only map I would actually call better in BO3, and the only map I don't enjoy is Ascension. And of course, all the World at War maps show up here, with some of the World at War weaponry showing up as well, although the PPSH isn't in the box, so that is a touch disappointing, but not a real problem. There isn't much to say really. BO1 is just a really solid and fun zombies mode. It's just fun, no real gameplay problems, the map selection is overall solid, with me only not liking one map, with Call honestly being a map I can actually occasionally enjoy, even though I don't really like it. It's just really a good zombies mode. I will say that if I rank it as based on nostalgic, this would easily be number 1, but still worth going back to. Now, as for the other mode I have been flip-flopping between, this might just be the point you might disagree the most with me, but I think World War II is actually my second favorite zombies mode. I'll try my best to explain my point, so let's see what I can do. This is going to be a ballsy statement, but I think that World War II might have nearly the best zombie feel of any mode. I say nearly because flip-flopping again between BO3 and World War II zombie feel. Melee feels really good to use. Without a doubt, it is better than BO3. It gives really good feedback when you slam a shovel against a zombie kraut's face, because apparently Nazi is too bad to say, and Collision is pretty much on par with BO3. In fact, I think it might be a touch better. World War II zombies actually feel like they sorta progress in a way that isn't simply they deal more damage. You can pretty much walk alongside them in the early rounds and you'll basically be able to not get hit, but in the later rounds, barely contacting them will allow them to hit you. It feels like they actually slowly get faster at hitting you and properly progress rather than just simple statistic things like, oh, it can sustain more damage, or oh look, now it's running. It's more like it can slowly hit you faster and faster each round in a more progressive way, and I really like that. The weapons feel good and look good. I'll admit I like these guns simply because I really like World War II weaponry. Not the game, I mean real life weaponry. Yeah, I hated the World War II name as well. Not the real war, you know what I mean. The mode does the whole multiple enemy types thing much better than Exozombies, and while I understood the complaints with the Wustlings, once you understand its mechanics, it's pretty easy to deal with. World War II's maps are all pretty good. The Final Reich might be the most atmospheric zombie map made. It feels like a return to the original horror feel of Nacht und Verrückt, but given a proper focus on. Plus, it was also really good. The Darkest Shore, while admittedly being a slight step down from the Reich, was still a good map, and the first time I encountered the Meuchler, which I internally call it the Slinger for some reason, I don't know why, it scared the ever-living shit out of me. Mainly because all I saw was a mess of dangly bits moving behind a pillar, and that was horrifying. The Shadow Throne was where the more horror atmosphere was admittedly ditched, but it was still a fun map, a touch better than the Darkest Shore, I feel. The Tortured Path would have been a bad DLC, but now that it's been patched to allow you to be able to play the casual maps without doing the Easter egg, is actually a fun set of casual maps with a unique mode that feels like a cross between Extinction and Zombies, and it's overall a pretty good DLC. Had this video been made earlier, I would have been a lot less kind to the Tortured Path, to be honest. And as for the Frozen Dawn, while I feel it is disappointing when it comes to conclusion narratively, it is really fun to play. The melee wonder weapons are really fun. Using the scythe might actually be some of the most fun I've had with zombies in a while. Now, I won't deny that there weren't a few things that were a touch problematic, specifically two things. The armor system is something that everyone seems to really dislike, but I honestly didn't have any problems with it. It's easy to get armor using the specialist abilities alongside certain perks, but I can see where people might dislike it. But the problem I have, and this will seem weird, is that there are far too many guns in this mode. The best comparison I can give is with Payday 2, where every now and then new guns are added, and I either break the game for a bit, for example, World War II's 9mm pistol, or just another weapon to throw to the pile, creating a giant massive weaponry that is just sort of there. World War II is much worse for this, as trying to get a specific weapon out of the mystery box gets worse and worse every new weapon update. It doesn't help most of the guns look the same, with the most noticeable similarities being the 5 or so weapons that look almost exactly like the stem. It's a small complaint, but it will get worse if the game keeps getting updated. Thankfully, none of these web problems affect the very gameplay, and World War II is just overall a great zombies mode. I know I talked a lot about World War II here, I won't even talk about the final spot this long, but I wanted to just talk about how much I love it, and it is criminally underrated, I feel. It is a really good mode, and if you have not played it, you should. If you just played the Final Reich and thought, oh, I don't really like this, give it another shot. Please, just give it another shot. It is really, really underrated and really good. And now for the final spot, and was there any surprise there would be BO4? I'm gonna keep this short and sweet because everyone has said something about this game, and I will pretty much be repeating everything everyone else has said if I keep going on about it, so let's just keep this very short. In my opinion, this mode has the best overall selection of zombie maps in any single zombies mode. I also feel it might have the best zombie collision. It's a little bit awkward to decide between World War II or BO4. I will say that World War II has a better feeling melee system, but BO4, the zombie collision is very, very close with World War II. They're pretty much both as good as the other. The premise crew's development throughout this entire BO4's storyline is absolutely fantastic, and while there is a bit of a bummer with the Revelations ending, it is overall still great, especially the Zetspo ending. Game is possibly the most vibrant zombies game out there so far. Until BO4 comes out, of course, we're not entirely sure yet as to whether it'll look fantastic with the colors yet. I mean, I've seen the gameplay, but it has to be a play experience. I'll be able to figure out when I play it, but right now BO4 is the most beautifully looking zombies game out there, even more better looking I feel than World War II or even IW. I feel it comes down to more than simply better graphics, it's how you use your graphics to make a pretty great game. And I'll just say this on the Gobblegum system. It is a very interesting system that completely breaks the game, and while I will not deny that I do have fun using it, I will also not deny that there is a hint, maybe a hint of pay to win in there. Well, it can't really be pay to win, it's more pay to survive a little longer, but you know what I mean. And that is all I'll say on BO4. Yeah, I know I said it was very, very short in comparison to the other ranking spots, but you know what? I just decided to leave it short because whatever I say on BO4 will pretty much have been said by every other person around the world about BO4. And that brings us to the end of this ranking and the end of this retrospective. Tomorrow, well, technically in about 3 hours, in less than 3 hours, BO4 is coming out, and what will happen then? Will I disappear into the ether and never resurface ever again? Or will I continue to make shit? I don't know. I'm probably gonna get lazy and stop midway through, but we'll see what happens. I've been Mr.Skittle Biscuit, and this was a horrible, rushed retrospective, and if there's one thing I learned about doing all these videos is that I am very bad at zombies. Not one fucking map during this entire retrospective did I get to round 20. So, yeah. Well, not even Revelations. I need help. I really, really need to figure out what is wrong with me. So yeah, BO4 doesn't have Jug. That'll be neat.